A Wedding in the Island of Marken by Anna Pitt Walls. It was a bright Sunday in June that I chose for my visit to the little triangular island of Marken, situated in the Zuider Zee, whose inhabitants, according to Washington Irving, have settled conclusively the long disputed question concerning the situation of the Garden of Eden. Enclosed by a broad dike that keeps out the encroaching waters of the Zee, these fishermen with their families live their quiet lives. The serpent of discontent and envy has not as yet penetrated their dikes. The spirit of unrest and greed has found no abiding place within those peaceful breasts. Many of the women and some of the men have never ventured beyond the narrow limits of their island, and their clothes are fashioned in the same manner as were their mothers and grandmothers before them. An air of unusual excitement prevailed over the community on the day of my visit. The young wives, with their babies in their arms, had congregated by the roadside and were so deeply engrossed in the interesting ceremony about to take place that they paid no heed to the stranger within their gates, though they are wont to hide behind sheltering doorways when foreign women come to stare at them. Following the direction taken by the various groups, I found myself in front of the village church, and when, a few minutes later, a young couple in holiday attire entered, I knew instinctively it was a wedding that had so moved the calm of this stolid Dutch peasantry. The little bride was most picturesque. Her dark stuff skirt over a white petticoat was just short enough to show her feet, encased in blue knit stockings and leather shoes with silver buckles. A white spencer over which was a bodice or corselet, green in front and red behind, heavily embroidered in gold and silver thread, completed her toilette. These bodices are works of art. The embroidery is gorgeous. It takes years to finish one, and they are handed down from mother to daughter as heirlooms. Like all the women of the island, old and young, the bride wore a white cap covering all the hair except a square bang in front and a long yellow curl on either side of the face. The groom's knickerbockers stood out in proverbial Dutch fashion. He must have had at least 4 pair under them. He wore a striped waistcoat over a red shirt, a long silver chain and collar buttons, also heirlooms. The bridal couple approached the altar entirely alone. The burgomaster met them there, addressed a few remarks and questions to them, then extended his hands in blessing and greeted first the groom, then the bride, and another Adam and Eve had entered the enchanted garden. Quietly, with not a word or sign to or from anyone, they turned and hand in hand left the church and walked in the middle of the street to their new home, which, according to custom, the groom entered first, for he must be there to welcome his helpmeet when she comes for the first time to his home, and to tell her that all he has is now hers. In a moment she followed him, both having left their shoes outside, for this was their sanctuary. At a certain age, about 16, the girls of Marken assume the shako, or cap worn by the women. This corresponds to the English girls' debut. After this they can smuggle, which means any attention offered by young men is considered serious. In the evening, after the boats come in, the young men and maidens assemble in the harbor and sit in the boats together. When a couple become engaged, all this is changed. The girl stays at home, weaves and makes up her linen, and learns to be a good housewife. The man fishes, builds his little house, and gathers his household goods about him. The engagement usually lasts 4 or 5 years, and during this time they seldom see each other, never alone. Thus, marriage to these simple folk who live so near to nature is a sacrament rather than a festival. End of A Wedding in the Island of Marken